You are listening to Trophy Horse with your hosts, Tricky Mick, Alex, I Yield to No One,
Steve,
and Troy.
Hello everyone and welcome to Trophy Horse. This is episode 388 of the show, and along with me for this week's adventure, it's I Yield to No One.
hey everybody. I was going to make fun of Tricky, but yeah, Alex, why don't you explain that?
I mean, he probably deserves it. So we get a message from Tricky bailing on the show this week because he says he hasn't gotten much sleep. We don't know the reason why, so it could be legit, it could be personal issues. But until we hear otherwise, I'm going to hope for the best and hope for that he was just up playing some of the Division 2 or some other game that he probably spends too much time playing. But yeah, we get a text from Tricky probably 30 minutes before the show saying, hey, I'm not recording. Agenda sent. It was an hour. But yeah, agenda sent, record without me. So, good old Tricky. Probably staying up too late playing video games as always. But yeah, so 388, you get me and Yield, and not a whole lot going on this week. I will say that in our topic of the week, you'll find out why Death Stranding is even less appealing now and far more confusing. But we'll get into that. Before we do that, Yield, let's get into our updated trophy count, and since you checked and made sure that everything was completely up to date, let's start with you.
Okay, so I am level 28 with a trophy count of 5778 and a platinum count of 90.
Tricky is level 39, total trophy count of 9,951 with a platinum count of 118. I am level 31, 6,856 total trophies and a platinum count of 102 and 101 games. Steve's level 15 with 2,145 total trophies and 11 platinums, and Sid is level 38, total trophy count of 8,791 with a platinum count of 162. We do want to remind you, if you have kind of been wondering where Sid's been recently, we addressed it on a few weeks ago, but we just want to say again that Sid's kind of taken a little bit of a break. He was getting a little burned out, spent a little bit too much money trying to get all these platinum trophies to kind of do an episode a week. So Sid's going to take a little break and hopefully come back with more episodes of Sophie Trophies once he's had kind of a little respite from all that. I can certainly feel that because I'm playing more games on the Switch now because, you know, even after playing God of War and having a little break, like having to go hard and get trophies, it kind of takes it out of you. So that's kind of an update where Sid's at. So, Yield.
Yes.
I haven't been playing much on the PlayStation. I have been playing a game that I can definitely talk about. Actually, it should be a game that PlayStation owners should be jealous that they can't play. But first, I want to hear what you've been doing. Have you been playing more World of Warships?
I have been. I've been getting my daily goals. I've played every day. I'm up to a tier 6 destroyer. I did that today, and I got my free premium tier 2 destroyer from the U.S. line for getting that far. I'm up to a tier 5 cruiser, and I'm up to a tier 4 battleship, all in the United States line.
So when we're talking tiers, like what does it go up to?
Tier 7 right now is the farthest it goes up to.
Oh, wow. So with the first one, was it just the battleship you said?
Well, you start off with a tier 1 cruiser, and then once you get to tier 3 on the cruiser line, you can then jump up to the destroyer line. And if you get to tier 4 on the cruiser, or almost right before tier 4 on the cruiser, because it's got kind of like a experience progression bar. So when you get up to your tier 3 cruiser, when you get almost to tier 4, you can then jump down to the battleship line. So I'm kind of doing all 3 trees or lines at once. But I started doing pretty good with the destroyer, so I kind of stuck with that a little bit more because you can get mad experience when you hit a bunch of torpedoes on a ship. So I kind of stuck with that and got that to tier 6 first. I've been playing some Rock Band 4. I jumped into that because our group was close to getting advanced on to the next round. So I did that to help us out.
So you played a little bit with Tricky?
Well, I didn't play with Tricky because, he doesn't have his notifications turned on, so he doesn't see when I sign in. But I played on our band's behalf. And then I've played some Days Gone, which I was kind of hoping Tricky was here because he wanted to. Him and I were going to compare what we thought about it. So I'm liking the game. I sometimes think the dialogue, Deacon seems to be mad for no reason.
I mean, if you lived in that world with all that shit going on, wouldn't you be mad too?
Well, yeah, but like somebody will give you a job to do or something, and he answers like real angrily, but the next time he's like all cool. It's just like, okay. Well,
it's almost like he channels young Kratos for a bit.
Yeah.
And once that's done, the next job, he's back to normal.
Yeah. So, and I was like, well, everybody was talking about how tense it was. I'm like, I haven't really experienced the tense yet, I'm going around, I see a freaker here, I see a freaker there. I'm just like, oh, okay, I kill him here, kill him there. I'm doing my thing. And then
have you felt overwhelmed at all? Like, has there been any large waves of freakers that you've come up against? Because in that game, like, setting the tone, like Dead Space, like setting the isolation, like that is the key to that game. In this game, Days Gone, it's like the tension, and you almost have to feel overwhelmed. Like in the last episode of Game of Thrones, like there has to be this feeling of desperation that's just comes from being overwhelmed.
So I was thinking that, well, maybe when I get across my first swarm, I will feel that way. And sure enough, I finally came across my first decent sized swarm where I was riding my bike up to a Nero checkpoint, and I forget why I jumped off my bike. I think maybe I saw on my mini map there was some herbs or something that I could pick. So I stopped my bike and I ran over to get them. And as I'm doing that, my radar turns red. I'm like, all right, where are these guys at? So I'm looking, and then all of a sudden, here comes this huge horde of freakers just meandering right down the middle of where I was riding my bike. And I was like, whoa, that would have been bad. So I'm not doing too bad. I've died 3 times. Once because that freaker horde got me because I got impatient. And
what, did you try to like run into the freaker wave like a surfer?
No, I tried. I walked around them, got into the Nero checkpoint, and I'm sitting there and I'm doing the things I need to do to turn the power back on without giving away any spoilers. So I'm sitting there and I'm figuring out what I need to do and all of this stuff. Well, apparently while I was doing that, one lone freaker saw me, does his thing, and then like it's on like Donkey Kong, and I'm trying to run and get on my bike, and they got me, and I died. Because I knew I wasn't going to be able to fight them all off, so I'm like, well, I'll just run and jump on my bike and live to fight another day. Well, that didn't happen.
I mean, strength in numbers, you're never going to win those odds.
No. So then the other 2 times I died was just because I wasn't thinking. Like I got picked off my bike by a sniper, and the other 2 flunkies come out of the bushes to come get me. So I like dodge and run out of the way, and then I healed myself. Well, then the sniper shot me again. So I'm like, okay, I got to get rid of this sniper. So I focused more on trying to get rid of the sniper, and I got clubbed in the back of the head. So
it's like raptors. You're looking at one, but then the other one comes from the side to kill you.
Exactly. So
now, one of the things that Tricky talked about, like one of his issues with the game, is that he said that it felt like it was too difficult too early. Did you get a sense of that?
No, I actually kind of thought the opposite. I thought it was kind of pretty easy. I mean, you go in knowing that, what it is. You can carry one sidearm. You can carry one primary, and then you've got one specialty weapon. Your specialty weapon is like sniper rifle, crossbow. Your primary are your sawn-off shotguns, your AKs, and your carbine repeater. And then you've got your handguns for your sidearm. The only thing I didn't necessarily like, and I think this has to do with the whole of your credits and of how things might be slim, is like I was carrying around, I guess it was a level 1, what they're calling a level 1 pistol. I don't know, it was a green box by my pistol said 1. I found a blue box with a number 2 in it. I'm like, okay, cool, this one packs more punch. So I picked up that number 2 pistol, and even though I'm carrying it, it doesn't show up in my gun safe. The only times guns show up in your gun safe is if you buy them. So if I ever drop that number 2, I'll have to eventually buy it. So that's just like a slight annoyance. I'm just like, okay, whatever. But I seem to... Go ahead.
Yeah.
No, okay, I was going to say, I seem to not be running out of supplies. And maybe that's just my OCD in these type of games where I'm like, ooh, I got to get this. I got to get that. I got to search everything. And I'm like constantly full on everything. Like, I'll go to use a Band-Aid and they fill up 50 hit points.
Enjoy it now, because once that new survival difficulty comes out, when they release the DLC later on, you're probably going to be real hard up for resources.
Well, probably. So I'm taking this opportunity now to kind of get my game plan down. I'm playing. I try to play stealth as much as possible because that is very important. I've never, like I said, you can get a sniper rifle as your second or as your special weapon, but then you got to leave behind your crossbow. I keep my crossbow because that's my silent killer, besides sneaking up behind them and stabbing them in the back of the head. So
crossbow, huh? You're doing it for Peter Mayhew.
I am holding on to that crossbow. So I'm using this playthrough to kind of get myself ready for the not ultra hard, but the survival difficulty when it hits in June. To probably be like, yeah, this is really hard. But I'm enjoying the game. I think it could be better.
Is there anything in particular you don't like about it? Like any big annoyances, or I shouldn't say annoyances, but big cons for the game? Anything that you really don't like that you think needs to be fixed?
Well, like I said, the dialogue where he just seems angry. And it's just like, wow, that guy didn't come angry at you. It didn't necessarily needed a angry response. But that's just a minor thing. The other minor thing is, when you can rescue people out in the wild. Sometimes you run across somebody who needs help, whether they're being attacked by other drifters or they're being attacked by other freakers. You can save them, and then you can tell them, hey, I know of a camp, and then you can send them to one of the camps. And then those camps give you credits and whatnot for sending them there. So you seem to kind of get the same dialogue from them when you save them. You know, and I've probably only saved maybe half a dozen at the most. And it's just kind of the same, oh man, I'd have been a goner. Thank you.
When you save these camps, do you have to escort them anywhere? Are there escort missions?
Not yet. When you save those people out in the wild, you know, let's say, a couple times there's been a guy, he's hiding in a car, and there's 4 freakers just beating up on the car, trying to get to him, and, you know, he's screaming for help. So you go in there, you lay waste to the freakers, he jumps out of the car, he's like, man, thanks a lot, I was a goner. And you're like, hey, you know, here, go to a camp, tell them I sent you, you'll be good. And the dude runs off, and that's it.
You know, it surprises me that Tricky's had some trouble with this game, at least in the start, because he is a guy who played through Metal Gear Solid. He loves that series, and stealth is a very important element in that series. This is a game that I know that you or at least Tricky was surprised when I said that I didn't really have an interest in playing it, because I don't like stealth games. I don't. I don't do well with them, and Sly Cooper, that's my style of stealth, and, you know, I love the Sly Cooper games. They're super fun. I think they're great games. But their stealth isn't really that hard. It's like stealth for kids. No. So I find it... I'm surprised that Tricky is having trouble with it because he's able to get through other games where stealth is so important. But me, this almost seems like a nightmare game. Because my style is, in the game that I'm playing, which we'll get into once you're done, but I like to go in and just outfight somebody. Outlast somebody. And I can't do that. It's you know, fighting the undead in Game of Thrones. Like, I can't just go against a wave of freakers and expect to come out on top.
Well, I think eventually you will have to go against small hordes, because in each area of the map as you get there, there are, when you go to your map, there's like a box that says, hey, there are basically your collectibles. There are so many hordes, so many Nero checkpoints, so much of this, that, other, blah, 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 blah. And as you complete them, it says, 2 out of 5. You get what I'm saying. So eventually there's going to be sizes of hordes that I'm going to have to attack if I want the platinum. But
and
right
in those moments, they ought to have the Batman Arkham Asylum style fighting in there, where you're flipping all over the place, destroying freakers.
Freakers.
Neck snaps and like throwing them into walls and stuff.
So right now I'm just kind of I'm going through the game, and I will go after the freakers when I feel comfortable that I am geared up enough to do that. Right now I don't feel like I'm geared up enough to do that. You can only carry you can only carry 50 rounds in your AK, and that's it. But ammo, at least right now, seems to be of abundance. Now, that could bite me in the butt if I bleed an area out. I haven't really paid attention if you open up a car, bust the lock on a car, and you get ammo out of it. If I come back there after I reload the game, is that car still empty? I haven't paid that much attention to know, but I'm being careful on how I play the game, and I'm picking my moments when I use my gun, because needless to say, you make a lot of noise, and any other freakers in the area are going to come to that noise.
When you say that the AKs only have 50 rounds in them, I remember in Uncharted, one of my rules in Uncharted, because there are so many enemy encounters in those games that you're often having the chance to pick up a new weapon. If there was not more than 60 rounds, or that weapon couldn't hold more than 60 rounds, especially if it was like an automatic weapon or a semi-automatic weapon, I wouldn't pick it up. Now, granted, in this game, you don't necessarily have the freedom to do that, to pick and choose. Oh, well, I'm not going to give up my spaz shotgun because this AK only has 40 rounds in it, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to hear, because that immediately made me think of my style of play in Uncharted.
Well, yeah. And like I said, 50 is a total that you get. When you first pick it up, when you run across ammunition, when you pick it up in the wild, ammo crates might have, I think the most I've seen is 21, maybe 24 rounds. For the most part, when you pick them up off of people, you're getting 4, 6 bullets. That's it. So
shit, give me a Magnum. I'd rather have a Magnum than an AK in that situation.
I haven't run across the Magnum yet. All I've run across is 2 kinds of handguns, which really don't have much stopping power. I mean, you really got to end up aiming for the head or just pump a lot of bullets in the chest. So
I mean, if you're going against hordes of enemies, you're not doing that all the time. But if you're going against a horde of enemies, what's an AK going to do? Just
well, I don't know.
Run away and shoot when you need to, because you're only really going to use your gun when you're in small encounters.
I haven't necessarily tried that yet. Like I said, the first horde I ran into, I'm like, you know what? I ain't got the ammunition to take these guys on. I'm running, and it didn't work out. They caught me because you got a stamina bar, so you can only, when you decide you're going to run, you can only do it for so long, and then your stamina depletes, and you've got to let it refill. So yeah, good game. I'm enjoying it, and I'm expecting it to get better as we go along, and that's what I'm getting, or not getting at. That's what I'm getting from the game so far. Is the more I get into it, the better it is.
I mean, you always love to hear 2 different opinions on games, and it seems like your opinion is not necessarily wildly, but different from Tricky's. So, I mean, next time you all are both on the show together, we'll definitely have to kind of have a little debate, and you will have more time in the game, so...
Well, yeah. Oh, and I've also played some Rocket League, because they're in Season 3 of their Rocket Pass, and this weekend was 2 times experience. So, I figured, I'll dive into it for a little bit. So, I've been doing that, because Tricky called me. I was playing Days Gone. I played Days Gone for a good part of Saturday. Well, my wife was watching me, and she is enjoying the story so far. Well, she had to go run an errand. But she's like, well, you can't continue the story while I'm gone. And I'm like, well, that's cool. I said, I'll just jump into some Rocket League. I've been wanting to play
it's like
that.
The couples who have to watch TV shows together.
Yeah. So I jumped into Rocket League. I wasn't in like my second match. My phone rings. And it was tricky. I see you quit playing Days Gone for Rocket League. You don't like it, do you? I'm like, no, man, I'm enjoying the game. I said, my wife had to run an errand and doesn't want to miss any of the story, so I just jumped into some Rocket League while she's gone.
See, that tells me, like, Tricky's looking for you to validate his opinion on the game, just like he was looking to me to validate his opinion on God of War.
Yeah, I'm like I said, it's not flooring me like I was expecting it to. But I'm also holding back and that could be because some of the early reviews were like, all show and I don't even know the saying I'm going for, but it's all that and nothing. So I was like, you know what? Maybe this game takes a little bit to get going, and that's kind of what I'm finding out is that. As the farther I get into the story, the more the map is opening up. It's like, oh, okay. Now I see everybody else's comments of how tense the game is and things like that. Because like I said, at first I wasn't feeling the tenseness. I was just kind of like, well, okay. To
be fair, all games take a little bit to get started. That's why, I mean, we can make jokes about Zelda and it's hand-holding all day, but it does usually take every game a little bit to get started. The game that I'm playing, to be honest, Bayonetta, that series, it kind of just throws you into the shit right away. Now, I talked about how I went back and played the original Bayonetta before I played Bayonetta 2, and it was a game that I still enjoyed, but I didn't enjoy it as much as I remembered. It wasn't as fun as I remember, mainly because it was a little bit harder than I remember, and like just the design of the levels, like it was kind of blah. Bayonetta 2 is like worlds better than Bayonetta. And it was, if you remember, it was exclusive to the Wii U. They brought it over to Switch. So when I bought Bayonetta 2, I got the download code for Bayonetta. This is a game that like PlayStation owners and Xbox owners should be jealous that they can't play because it's so fun. The combat is I mean, it's still extremely fun. There's still so many combos you can do, and it just looks like having guns in your hands and on your feet and being able to change those out for different weapons and just doing all these fast, almost like break dancer like fighting. It's so cool to watch. The witch time, it's like using like dodging as kind of a parry as a way to get to like a slowdown time where you can just kick the shit out of your enemies. It's all so much fun. Bayonetta 2, like they've scaled back the difficulty. It's easier than the original Bayonetta, but not in a bad way. It's actually far more fun because it's still like the boss, or like all the fights are still really hectic and really fast paced, but it feels like you have a far more fair chance of coming out without as many cuts and bruises, I'll say. Because the first game, like there were some fights you just kind of had to, try over and over again. This game, like I'm having to use some of the herbs and some of like the health items, but not nearly as much. And it's more fun, but I still feel like I'm being challenged. So I think that they addressed that really well in Bayonetta 2. Also, the environments and the level designs are just so much better and so much more creative than the first game. In the first chapter, you come up to this almost like this little small market, and in the background there's a temple, and behind that there's a lake, and it's just, or sorry, not a lake, but like there's a giant, like a mountain, and it's just a really beautiful scene, and you don't get anything like that in the original Bayonetta. Like some of this stuff, some of these set pieces, it's kind of like you would see in an Uncharted game. So I really appreciated that, and Bayonetta 2 is still insane. It's like the original Bayonetta, but even more on crack, because every level has like a boss fight, like a huge boss fight, and it never gets old. Ashley's oldest Sam was asking me, doesn't that get old, just kind of dodging and punching and then dodging and punching? It's like, no fight in Bayonetta ever gets old, because it's all like not stressful, but like super frenetic, and like you're just amped up, and you've got to be quick, and your reflexes have to be on spot, and it's just so much fun. So a lot of the problems that I had with Bayonetta, they have addressed in Bayonetta 2, and it's just a very fun game. So I think that I like it a lot more than the original Bayonetta, and I think it's probably one of my favorite third-person action games. It's what I thought about Bayonetta, like, when I originally played Bayonetta, but going back and having played the two kind of very close to each other, Bayonetta 2 is just a much better game. So if you do have access to a Switch, or you do own a Switch and you never got to play Bayonetta 2 because you didn't own a Wii U, you need to play that. Because it's an amazing action game. Like, I love Bayonetta 2. It's so much fun.
Awesome.
It's somehow Bayonetta in Overdrive, like, it's like, hey, we have MotorStorm Pacific Rift. You like that? Well, you'll love MotorStorm Apocalypse, where everything's just falling to shit while you're racing.
Nice analogy.
Yeah. It's just super fun. And still super chaotic, even more so than before, but everything's far more manageable. And, like, items, the items and, like, the ingredients you collect to be able to make like items like health lollipops and lollipops that go towards your oh god, I'm trying to think.
Health lollipops, that's awesome.
Yeah, they go to like earning moon orbs, like all the ingredients that go towards building up your items and your lollipops. Those are far more plentiful, and it all makes for a better experience. The game's, it's not too easy, it's not a walkthrough, but, it's just far more enjoyable. So, Tricky, as always, on this agenda, and I hate when he does this, basically puts, breaking down the fourth wall here, because we've had this discussion many times on the show.
All right.
I'm just going to say it. I hate when Tricky puts these kind of dumbass topics on the agenda, because Tricky sits here and, he wants to be a news reporter, and I'm like, well, how about we just pick a few topics that we can sit here and talk about and have more in-depth discussions than just having, like, 6 topics where we just run through and no one can talk shit about anything. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to pander to Tricky and give you 2 quick news topics that we're just going to blow by. The PlayStation 4 has apparently sold 96.8 million units worldwide.
That's
pretty
nuts.
impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Ubisoft is teasing a new Ghost Recon. We won't know until next week. I think May 9th is when the announcement is supposed to be coming, but they apparently are teasing a new Ghost Recon game. Unsure if that's a sequel to Wildlands, but yeah, expect that this coming week, May 9th. Man,
I really need to get into my backlog.
That'll never happen because you keep adding games to it.
Yeah, I know, right? It's horrible.
But yeah, so there's the news that Tricky wants you to know. It's not. I mean, if we can, just mention it, I guess it doesn't matter. But yeah, there's the news that Tricky thinks you need to know. A much bigger topic that I think is more prescient to Yield and I. And Yield, you've already brought up Rocket League. Epic Games has acquired Psyonix, which is the developer of Rocket League. Now, in the comments on this, IGN wrote about it, and everything was super positive. Everything coming from Psyonix after the purchase was really positive. Except there was one little thing that once this goes to the Epic Game Store, it will no longer potentially be available on Steam. That came from The Verge.
Ooh, ouch.
Psyonix has basically come out and said, quote, "We can't comment on speculation. We can say that Rocket League remains available for purchasers on Steam for the time being, and long-term plans will be announced in the future." Basically, I think we can say that report is correct, and it will be pulled from the Steam store at some point, because they say that's the very PR-friendly, hey, it's available for the time being, and that being the phrasing there that you need to pay attention to. I'd say that The Verge's the report that's going to be pulled is accurate, probably.
I was kind of surprised that they were acquired by somebody. I know that initially, for the most part, a huge part of Rocket League was picked up because of the freeness of PlayStation Plus, at least on the Sony side. But I believe they've done quite well with their esports and their DLC packs and all that. I'm just kind of, is it stated the reason why they kind of let themselves be acquired, kind of sold themselves?
No. I mean, from the standpoint of Psyonix, I mean, they talk about it, like, in a quote saying it significantly increases the potential reach and resources that the game and the team now have. So being bought by a bigger studio makes sense, although there are some studios that want to retain some autonomy. But, like, you see Insomniac Games, they don't really want to be purchased by anybody. But it's amazing that, somebody like, if Microsoft is going to be throwing out all this money, why the hell didn't they go buy Psyonix? I don't get that. Why didn't Sony try to buy Psyonix? If Fortnite or Epic Games, the creators of Fortnite and Gears of War and all that, if they can buy them, surely Sony and Microsoft certainly can, or they can at least put their names in the hat.
Absolutely.
One other thing to come out of this is Rocket League is surpassed, at least in 2018, so last year they surpassed 50 million players, and that was 3 years after it was released. So you think 50 million people still playing the game, it's still being used in esports, it's still promoting things like big WWE pay-per-views and stuff like that, it's sponsors for that. It's extremely impressive. So, I mean, it's not like Psyonix is probably, at a loss for money. They don't put out a ton of paid DLC, mostly, the free content that comes in patches and stuff. But clearly, I mean, the game has done very well, and it's become a multiplayer phenomenon. So, I mean, if you look at the standpoint from Sony, Sony doesn't have a lot of first-party exclusive sports games. Yes, they have MLB The Show. Other than that, I can't really think of anything. Just to have something like this, like a very multiplayer-focused, like only a multiplayer-focused game, I think would have been a big thing, like a big, I hate to use the cliche, but a big feather in their cap. And the same for Microsoft. So, like, for, these platform holders who are pushing multiplayer play, you have to have PlayStation Plus to play online multiplayer. Even Nintendo, to play on their multiplayer games online, you have to have their service, which is like $20 a year. Same with Microsoft. You have to pay into Xbox Live. For them not to try to get this game, it's surprising. Although the one thing I will say is that maybe Psyonix has been approached about being bought by the platform holders, but they want to keep their game multi-platform, which is why it makes more sense to go with Epic Games, because Epic Games isn't going to say, oh, well, you can't be on the PlayStation now or the Nintendo because you're owned by Microsoft. So that's the only way I can see why they went with a studio like Epic Games as opposed to a platform holder, because they want to be multi-platform with their game.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But, I mean, it seems like we can expect no changes to Rocket League, and support, if anything, will probably get even better support with Epic Games infrastructure and all their resources. So, I mean, this can only mean good things as I see it for Psyonix and for Rocket League. Yield, do you see anything bad about this, or just, like, is any point of view concerned that at some point Psyonix is going to say, hey, stop, or sorry, not Psyonix, but Epic Games is going to say, hey, stop supporting Rocket League, make Rocket League 2, or move on to something else so we can make even more money?
It's hard to say. I saw some things on social media about the purchase, and I kind of got the vibe, at least for the things that I was seeing, that some people weren't overly thrilled with it. I was just, like I was asking at the beginning, I was kind of surprised that they sold themselves. I figured Rocket League was doing quite well with all their esports and, like you said, the pay-per-views and all the, everything that they're doing. It didn't seem like they were in any kind of financial issue. And, you go back to Rocket League and you pick it up, it's still fun to play. It's not like you pick it up and you play a couple matches and you're like, they're doing things to entice you to come back. The Rocket Passes and the double XP weekend during the Rocket Passes. I will be cautiously optimistic about it. Kind of see what Epic does with it. Are they just going to be kind of a use their talents for their games? Or are they just going to kind of be you know what? You guys do what you do. We'll help you along the way.
I don't know if it has any things to do with money. I mean, one of the things about the video game industry is very volatile, and we've seen studios shut down overnight because the game didn't sell. But I think that, even with the coming on of Apex Legends, there are certain franchises, certain games that you think that, hey, if you just keep supporting this with content, people will keep playing it. Rocket League is one of those. Fortnite probably will prove to be one of those. And, even Rock Band, that's another game that it's like, hey, this is not a game, this is a platform on which you can play on, theoretically forever, not necessarily logistically forever, Because when the new consoles come out, if PlayStation 5 when that comes out, we'll probably see another Fortnite, maybe a new Rocket League. But it's one of those games where I just kind of want to see them continue to support it. I don't think a Rocket League 2 is necessary because the fundamentals are there. What are you going to change about the fundamentals? And visually, the game looks good. So why change anything? Why would we need a Rocket League 2? As long as they can still profit off the game.
Well, absolutely. I don't know how you can top Rocket League. And a Rocket League 2, you would have to change it up in a sense. I feel. Because they did the, what was it, the rocket powered battle cars. I think that was their first game or something along that lines. And then so Rocket League was a step in kind of a different direction, but still kind of what they learned from that game. If they did another Rocket League, I think they'd have to do something like that. Let's go take what we've learned here and here, but we're going to go over here. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the big takeaway, at least, if you believe Psyonix, is that there's only going to be positive things to come from this. So, I mean, we can all hope for that. I think there's always going to be apprehension when a larger studio or a larger business buys a smaller one. It's never always everyone's super happy when someone gets bought out, but it doesn't always mean bad things. So hopefully, only time will tell. But at this point, I say it can only help Psyonix. Not that Psyonix was in a bad spot, but Epic Games offers them a lot that can definitely help them make Rocket League even better and last even longer. So I see it only as a positive.
I agree.
Now, Yield, you pointed out that the PlayStation... Oh, shit, there's a Golden Week sale on the PlayStation Network. Japan-inspired titles. Well, there you go, folks. INS 5.7. Jump on that shit, although, we were released on the worst day possible, Yield. The day after sales end.
The day after the sale ends, yeah.
Yeah. But even if you can't get in on the Golden Week sale, you can still get on the PlayStation Plus free games for May. And Yield, you were talking about this, and I'll ask you to elaborate after I announce the games, is that people aren't necessarily thrilled about these games. The two games that are going to be released for PlayStation Plus members for free for May are Overcooked and What Remains of Edith Finch. I'll quickly comment that I have Overcooked, so I can't download that game. That's bound to happen sometimes, so no harm there. It is a fun game, although it gets to a point where I feel like you need a second player, so it's not one of those games you can just get through on your own. And What Remains of Edith Finch, I've always heard that that's a pretty good game, so why people would be disappointed in that, I'm not really sure, unless there are, those people who have both games.
I didn't click on it. I don't know, maybe it's my lack of attention span, but when people are already kind of moaning and groaning and complaining, I'm for the most part, I'm just kind of like, okay, well, that's your opinion. I don't want that in my life, so to speak, so I don't care. You can just not like it. For me, when I heard these two games, I was like, awesome. I don't own neither of these or either of these. So, and I've heard, like you said, I've heard good things from both games. I've heard good things about Overcooked. I've heard good, and there have been a couple of times I've almost pulled the trigger on sales. Excuse me, I had to burp. I've almost pulled the trigger on sales on What Remains of Edith Finch. And I've kind of held off. No, my backlog's already big. I don't need it yet. Or I'm buying this small couple of games and this one's on the fence, and I end up going, well, these are more important. I'll wait because they always put this one on sale. So I'm glad what I'm getting because I haven't purchased any of these. So awesome. And it's better than last month's games because I might throw Conan in my library. I don't know. I haven't put any of them in there yet.
Yeah, no, I'm not even going to bother, to be honest. The Surge, I believe there's actually a sequel coming out of that, so that might actually be the reason they threw it in there for PlayStation Plus to get people to play the original game. But yeah, I didn't even budge on either one of those. So,
and that's kind of how I was. I mean, I understand Tricky's philosophy of, well, at least put it in your download list in case you decide you want to play it. I watched the trailer on a game. If I've, like let's take last month's games. If I haven't heard of them or don't know about them, I watch the trailer on them. If it doesn't pique my interest, I'm okay if I don't take them. For me, at first the allure of Plus was the free games. But really the bread and butter is the discounts that you get on games.
Yeah, I pay for PlayStation Plus because of the discounts on games and like the discount on top of sales. Also cloud saves. Cloud saves are I wouldn't pay that much for cloud saves alone. So like the free games, even if I'm not downloading even one every month or every 2 months, like I'm still totally happy. Like Overcooked is a fun co-op game. I played it solo because I really didn't have anybody else to play with, but it's meant to be played co-op. What Remains of Edith Finch, it's kind of understood to be a underappreciated gem, so I will be downloading that and playing that. But, I mean, what people have to realize is not every month is going to be exciting. Not every month is going to have something for you.
Exactly.
Sony can't please everyone with 2 games.
No.
So they're going to release what they can, and if you choose... Look at it this way. There's 24 free games for you to download every single year.
Yeah.
If you get 2 of them, or even 3 of them, chances are you've
paid
made
for your
up
Plus.
the money
Yeah.
that you paid for Plus.
Exactly.
So,
and there was a month... Oh, what was it? It was probably 3 or 4 months ago. I think we got Mad Max and something else. And I was like, darn it, I own both those games. But both those games were really good. So, I mean, I was bummed that there was nothing that I could download. But on the other hand, I was just like, people, go get these games because I've played them and they're really fun. So, this is the time the pendulum has swung the other way. I don't own these 2 games, and I've heard good things about them, so I'm taking them. And then, like I said, last month's, I might put one in my download list, but I'm not really all that jazzed about them.
And I appreciate when they choose to spotlight and give us games, smaller games, not necessarily the AAA $60 games. They're not always going to give us those, but I appreciate when they give us smaller games that are perhaps, still high quality, perhaps a little bit more risky in what they do, a little bit more novel. So I definitely appreciate those months when we get games like that.
Absolutely. We as gamers get spoiled when we get the big titles. Here are full games that you're getting, and that's what you expect. And then when they don't give you what you want, people feel like since social media is a big thing that they need to get on that and trash it. Maybe I'm old school, I don't know. People
seem to be more vocal when they're not happy with something than when they are happy with something.
That is true.
So, yes, by the time this show comes out, you will be able to pick up the new PlayStation Plus free games. And, we are going to roll then into our topic of the week. And, I don't know really about how you feel about this. This is, again, another reason, Tricky, it'd be nice to have him on the show so he could comment on this because really he's the Hideo Kojima guy. I respect Hideo Kojima.
As do I.
I don't really care for his games, to be honest. And I really just want Death Stranding to go away. Like, anytime I see something about Death Stranding, I don't want to click on it because I'm probably even more confused when I read an article about Death Stranding than when I didn't read anything at all about it. Because at this point, we still don't know anything about the game. Well, we know some things about the game, but we don't know really what we're trying to do in this game. Now, IGN has an article, and it posits the question: where is Death Stranding going to be an MMO? And this comes based on some of his comments that came from the Tribeca Film Festival in New York, and IGN pulled this from Games Radar. So, according to Kojima, and I'm going to read you some quotes because really there's no way to paraphrase this shit. Hideo Kojima is just too confusing. It's an open world action game, but it's really something new. There are so many things happening in the real world, in America, in Europe. Everything is actually connected by the internet, but in a way we're not connected in the real world these days. I'm putting that as a metaphor in the game. He elaborated, the player will have to reconnect the world in the game. You're very alone, there's solitude, but you're trying to connect. The story and the gameplay, the key word is connection. There are so many things in between, of course, but the key is connection. And the last little bit we'll share from Kojima. I also threw in a really new idea Kojima teased, although you're connecting the game and everyone is playing together, and you'll be connected. Everyone will be connected together as well. I can't say anything about it because Sony will be very unhappy. I don't know what to be disconnected. I don't want to be disconnected from Sony. At this point, I have no idea what the fuck he's talking about with this game.
Sounds like he talked in a circle.
Yeah. I mean, like...
Well,
at some point, they have to give us more details on this game.
Well, yeah.
Because even, Norman Reedus was there. He plays Sam in the game, and, he talked about it, but even he didn't shed any light. All he talked about was that there were violent elements to it. So at this point, we have this game that they wanted us to get excited for, but yet we don't know anything about the game itself. We don't know how we're going to be playing. Like, I don't, like... He calls it an open world, but I'm so off-put by this game, and, like, just tell me what the game's about.
Yeah, the whole connected thing, I don't necessarily take it as an MMO. I mean, they could be going with a kind of a Watch Dogs thing. You know what I'm saying? In the sense of that, you're connected via the internet or something. If it is an MMO, then I'm definitely out. Right now, I've been just cautiously optimistic. I've kind of liked some of the things that I've seen, just from their trailer aspects of it. But like you said, I don't know what's going on. I don't really know what I'm supposed to be doing. And I haven't really seen... I don't think we've seen gameplay footage. We've just seen trailers. So,
yeah, I mean, there was a gameplay reveal trailer at E3. I mean, it feels to me like Kojima himself doesn't know how to describe this game, and every time he opens his mouth, it's just stalling, so none of us figure out that fact, that he actually doesn't know what the game's about.
And that could very well be. I just know that I haven't seen anything yet that makes me go, I'm buying that game.
When he talks, it feels like the game is still in concept. Like, they're writing it down on napkins at like, McDonald's, and it's not actually like a game that's currently in development. It all sounds like it's just ideas being thrown at the wall.
And we hope something sticks.
Now, when he talks about being connected and like connection with other people, it's really odd because his other baby was, of course, Metal Gear Solid, and I can't really think of many more games that are like isolating than Metal Gear Solid. It's a completely solitary experience. You're, in many ways, this kind of lone wolf. And for him to talk about connection, and even for people to think that this could be an MMO, that's kind of like almost like a Guerrilla Games jumping from Killzone to Horizon jump. I mean, that's a huge jump for Kojima, and kind of dabbling in an area where he hasn't dabbled much before. Because when I think of Kojima, I don't think of multiplayer games.
No.
I mean, the closest we'll get to having... that I can think of Kojima and multiplayer is a game he didn't even work on, just under the name of Metal Gear Solid, which is Metal Gear Survive. So
did Zone of Enders have any multiplayer in it?
I am not entirely sure.
Okay, that I'm not for sure, but that was his other game that I remember him doing.
But perhaps that maybe this is a multiplayer experience, and you're trying to play with other people, and that's part of the reason that the game is so far in development, or is kind of like still a mystery, is because he's still trying to figure all this out because he's so used to developing a single player experience. But all the same, the more I hear about Death Stranding, the less I want to hear about Death Stranding, because it's almost like you're trying to pitch me a game that you has no idea where it's going. It's like you have ideas, but you don't know where it's heading. You have no ending. There's like a beginning, but no middle or end. And I'm like, I don't care. I don't care anymore. Stop talking about this game. Release it, don't release it at this point. I don't care. And maybe that's just me. Maybe you feel differently, Yield. I know that Tricky loves Hideo Kojima, so he will probably, regardless, buy this game. But, I mean, do you side more... Like, where are you on the spectrum as far as that goes? Like, is this a game that you said you were cautiously optimistic, but is this a game that you still even want to play anymore?
I'm still waiting to find out what I'm doing. Like I said, it looks cool, so it's piqued my interest, but I'm not behind it until I feel like I know what's going on. What's my objective? What am I doing? And I don't get that yet. So I'm not like everybody else that's blindly going, well, Hideo's doing it, I'm all in. I mean, it'll have a heck of a good story. I believe that, if you can follow it. But I'm the wait and see. And, you know, I mean, I waited for Duke Nukem forever, so I can wait for this.
You can wait for Duke Nukem forever. You can wait for anything.
That's right. And
You can wait for the city of Atlantis to come out of the ocean.
And Duke Nukem wasn't as bad as everybody says it is.
You'll die on that hill.
I will die on that hill. I will be the last man standing. Hail to the king, baby.
Even had to. What are you? Are you being paid by Gearbox now?
That would
be a mouthpiece for Gearbox and for Duke Nukem.
That would be awesome, wouldn't it?
Yield, your check is in the mail.
Awesome. All right. I'm all out of bubblegum. They're mailing me my bubblegum.
Yeah, with Death Stranding, like, obviously Hideo Kojima is a tremendous developer and he's earned a lot of respect, very deservedly. I think, though, that as far as their approach to marketing this game and getting the word out has been very bad, because you want some mystery, because, you know, you want to pique people's interest and you want to keep them, you know, kind of hungry. So you want to have some mystery, but this game is a complete mystery. And after it being out for so long, like, you run the risk of irritating people. And, you know, with so many other games coming out and the PlayStation 5 on the horizon, it's almost like you're in danger of marketing it, but marketing it so poorly that other people just move on to other games. So I hope the game the game will come out, but I hope it's that just soon. I hope that soon, hopefully, you know, maybe, well, probably not Tokyo Game Show, but at least by next E3 that we learn more about this game and we actually get, like, say, a 30-minute stage demo or something like that, or the PlayStation Experience or something, where we can actually see the game for a full, long time and actually, you know, gather an idea of what we'll be doing. Because, I mean, how can you get excited for a game that you don't know how to play? You know, Hideo Kojima and Norman Reedus, they can only drum up so much excitement by themselves, and eventually that's just going to burn out. So hopefully by next E3 or PlayStation Experience or whatever, we have a better idea of what we'll be doing in Death Stranding.
Amen.
Yeah, because maybe I'm just too hard on the game, but I'm just irritated every time I open an article and have to read about Death Stranding. Because I want to tell people, and I want to know myself, what's going to be going on in this game, but we're just creating more questions than answers, so. But that is going to bring us to the end of this episode. Yield, I can't do it myself, so we're going to get into the housekeeping. You said to Sweet Mama D last week, and Tricky got a little upset at you. What are we going to do?
We're going to clean this shit up.
That's right. We are always looking for talented writers, podcasters, video editors, and news reporters to join the Proven Gamer team. If you think you have what it takes, go to provengamer.com and click on the Help Wanted tab at the top of the page. Once you fill everything out, Tricky will get back to you as quickly as he can. If you watch on Twitch, go to twitch.tv/ProvenGamer to see whenever we're streaming. If you're on Discord, you can join the Proven Gamer group, and we will send you little notifications when we will be streaming on Twitch. Again, the address is twitch.tv/ProvenGamer. If you want to contact us via Twitter, you can contact the show or the website at Proven Gamer. You can also contact me at SonicSourceRix, Yield at I Yield to No One, Steve at Batchild27, Sid at Siderny, SIDDERNEY, and Tricky at TrickyMick. If you want to contact us via email, it's trophyhorrors@provengamer.com, and our phone number, Yield, our phone number.
330-PROVEN9, 330-776-8369.
If you like Trophy Horrors and you want to check out our other podcast on the Proven Podcast Network, go check out PG Spoilers. As I say this, I understand that there is a panel forming for a second God of War podcast that will include me, because
Alex versus
Tricky
everyone
agree with what I have to say about the game, so that's fine. That's fine. No one's going to sway my opinion of the game because I played all the way through the game. But if you... So be aware that should be coming out in the near future. We also have Nintendo Dual Screens with Steven and Andy, and Game Stuff, which is a more generalized podcast. Where can you find all of these shows? Well, you can find them on Apple Podcast, Stitcher, various podcast apps, Google Play, TuneIn, and you can find Nintendo Dual Screens and Trophy Whores on iHeartRadio and Spotify. We've also got 3 PlayStation 4 communities: Proven Gamer Community, the Tito's Brothel, which is the Tito's Brothel because we can't say whores on the network. Shuhei Yoshida won't allow it. So instead of Trophy Whores, we are the Tito's Brothel on the PlayStation 4, and Yield's Platinum Guild. Yield, why don't you tell the people about your Platinum Guild?
So it's a place to come and basically brag about your platinums, keep your platinum count or whatever. Maybe you can hook up with some people who have the same game as you. You're trying for a co-op trophy, or maybe you get in a group of people together for some multiplayer trophies. You can do that. That's kind of what it's for.
And you can have your name forever etched in the glory of earning platinum trophies.
You can. But I tell you, there's a group of people that are killing it in the platinum count. They are the epitome of a trophy whore. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yes, one of our Patreon producers, CJ Anderson, is one of those people with his 6,000 platinum trophies.
And the stacking. They love their stacking. But hey, that's cool. I'm not bad mouthing you. You go earn them platinums.
Trophy Whores is also proud to be in a partnership with the Humble Bundle. I will always include a link to our Humble Bundle partnership page in the show description on ProvenGamer.com. If you don't know what Humble Bundle is, you can go. It's basically a charity initiative that every month they bundle together a group of games in one space, and you can basically name your price for that bundle. There are tiers to every bundle, so the more that you pay, the more games you'll get. Generally, the value probably averages to around $250 or more for the games, and in some instances, you'll get more than 9 or so games. So even if you have to pay $20 for it, it's still a really good deal. And the Humble Bundle supports charity, so it is a charity initiative, and you're helping people. So if you can spend more money, then definitely why not do it? You're still getting a lot of value for that money. You can also sign up for their electronic newsletter to figure out what's the latest news on Humble Bundle. Now, if the bundles aren't your thing, they also have sales on single games as well as bundles of books and bundles of comics, anything, and those change monthly. So go to humblebundle.com to check out all they have to offer for this month. Before you go to Amazon.com to do any of your shopping, please come to ProvenGamer.com first. You only have to do this once, so if you've already done this, you can go ahead and tune me out for a few seconds. But there is a link to Amazon.com on the front of ProvenGamer.com. You click that link, it'll take you straight to Amazon.com, where you can do all your shopping for your crackers, your diapers, your mustard, your video games, your CDs, your vinyl, whatever you want to get. It is a small step for you, but it does help the show a lot, especially with site fees, server fees, and all that. So if you could just take that step and click on the Amazon link on ProvenGamer.com, we would really appreciate it. You can also support us on Patreon, patreon.com/ProvenGamer. There's different levels to support us at. If you want to help the show out, you can definitely do that on Patreon. Just pick what you want. Pick the tier that you want to support us at, and we will gladly. I don't remember exactly what the tier rewards are, but CJ is a patron, and of course we had him on the show a couple weeks ago. So there's a lot of different good stuff in there for you if you choose to become a Patreon producer and support the show. And even if you can't give any money to the show, one of the best things you can do is review us on Apple Podcast or any of the other applications where you can write a review. That helps get word of mouth out. That helps get the show out. So if you can help us in that way, we definitely appreciate it too. Yield, November or Extra Life is on November 2nd this year. How about you give us an idea of what Extra Life is all about?
So Extra Life is a 24-hour, well, since it's on daylight savings ending, it's a 25-hour video game marathon where it benefits the Children's Miracle Network of Hospitals. So you go to extra-life.org and you either join a team. Proven Gamer has a team. You can join our team, or you can create your own team, or you can just play solo. And what you do is you get friends, family members, co-workers, total strangers, doesn't matter, anyone, to donate monies to you to play video games for 25 hours. You then select a Children's Miracle Network hospital of your choosing to basically that money goes to. So it could be your local one, it could be clear across the country or clear across the states. Whichever one, doesn't matter. And 100% of the money that you get collected to you will go to that children's hospital of your choosing. So it's a win-win. You get to play video games, and you get to help out sick kids. It's a win-win.
Very well said. And of course, we mentioned CJ as one of our Patreon producers. We also want to mention Felicia Steff. Give a big shout out to her as our other Patreon producer. That is going to bring us to the end of the show. Before we get out of here, as always, we want to give our shout outs. Yield, how about you give out some credit to the people this week?
So, as always, shout out to the pimps and the madams of the whoredom. Thank you. Downloading, listening, engaging with us, as always. A shout out to wargaming.net. I am enjoying World of Warship's Legends. I'm enjoying the learning how to play as the different ships and even the different tiers of ships. So that's actually kind of fun. So it'll be even more interesting when the trophies come in. A shout out to Ben Studio. I know that a lot of the initial reviews kind of dampered the launch of the game. I won't say it panned it. They weren't as thrilled as what they were expecting. So maybe that's what it was. Maybe they got overhyped. I don't know. The fan reaction, the consumer reaction has been really positive, what I've seen. Everybody loves it. So I'm getting into it. I'm really enjoying it. So a shout out to them and all their hard work. And just remember, you don't support this, you may not get Siphon Filter reboot or remastered. So remember that. You're going to make Yield sad if I don't get that.
You're gonna clutch that until the day you die. You're gonna go into your coffin with a prediction sheet that says E3 2099 Siphon Filter.
Yeah,
new one coming out.
Coming out. I called it. Yep. So, hey, and then when it happens, I'll be on top of that mountain going, "Told you so." Every one of you. Anyway, shout out to Alex for hosting this week. Shout out to Tricky, even though he couldn't be here. He did put together the show notes. A shout out to him. And that'll do me for this week. I'm drawing a blank on everybody else.
I want to give a shout out, as always, to the fuel to the fire that is Trophy Horse, the listeners. Thank you all for your continued support of the show, whether you support on Patreon, whether you support by just word of mouth, or if you just support us by downloading the show every week. We truly appreciate you all very much. We can't really convey how much we appreciate you all, but just know that you all are the reason the show is still around, the reason why it's grown so much, and the reason it's on things like iHeartRadio and Spotify. So thank you all very much for your continued support of the show. I want to give a shout out to the to Avengers Endgame. Went to see it last week. Loved it. Yeah, it was one of the that movie is a perfect example of why I go to the movies. I didn't love every aspect of the movie, but by the end, I was cheering like a stupid fanboy. So, I think that the movie kind of tied up all the things that should have really well, and just it gave me what I expected from the movie and what I wanted out of that universe. So, Avengers Endgame, super fucking great. Loved it, and we'll be buying it when it comes to DVD. I also want to give a shout out to David Benioff and D.B. Weiss, who, if you don't know who they are the executive producers of Game of Thrones. They pulled off a fantastic episode, The Long Night, last week. Super tense even before the battle went down, but it was a great episode, and
I hear this week might be even more tense.
Yeah, they're coming with the last 3 episodes, and I expect just the shit. I mean, I feel like this episode will give us some time to breathe before everything goes down, even before as they would say, the final battle goes down. So I feel like this is going to be a bit of a breather episode to kind of set up some story and tie up some more loose ends. But yeah, last episode it was super tense. It was even better than I thought it could be. So it was a fantastic episode, and Game of Thrones has become one of my favorite TV shows of all time. So I definitely want to give credit to them, the executive producers, for putting the show together and just creating so many fantastic characters. Well, I guess George R.R. Martin is the one who deserves credit for that. But just for bringing the stories, George R.R. Martin's stories to the television screen. Kudos to them for that. It's been a huge success, and I'm sad the show's ending, but I'm also very excited to see the final 3 episodes. So, last but not least, I want to give an awesome shout out. Awesome.
Awesome.
Give a shout out to my loving girlfriend Ashley. tremendously positive experience in my life. I love you, honey. And thank you as always for just supporting my nerdiness and, going to see Avengers Endgame with me, even though you're not the hugest Marvel fan or, the fact that you haven't seen all that many Marvel movies, but always been willing to go and to compromise. I love you. So those are going to be my shout-outs of the week. And that is going to wrap up episode 388 of the show. Thank you all again for listening. And until next week, happy trophy hunt.
Alex, go eat your pizza.
Save your last words, then read on me this. Save your last words. Save your last words, then read on me this. Save your last words, then read on me this. Save your last words, then read on me this. Save your last words, then read on me this.
The theme song is Venus by the band Even off their album Zenith. Permission granted by the band and 12 Stone Records. You can find them on Facebook by going to www.facebook.com/evenphilippines.